Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. If you're a football lover, man, the NFL just keeps giving us content. They never stop. And it's a year-round thing. And why am I so excited today? Because Michigan, former University of Michigan quarterback and head coach, now national champion with the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh is now set. It's been signed, sealed, and delivered. He is the next head coach of the San Diego Chargers. And I think that this is going to be very interesting, and it's going to make the AFC West one of the toughest divisions in football. Funny, we said that a couple years ago. It didn't turn out that way, but I think it's definitely going to be that for real this year. And yeah, we're going to get right to that. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Jim Harbaugh, he's an interesting cat, to say the least, right? He's the son of a coach. He's the brother of a coach. He's now a champion. He's an outstanding coach. He's a guy who played in the NFL, played at one of the biggest big name colleges in college football. Obviously, he was quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines, Captain Comeback, I think they called him. Went on to play in the NFL for some years, played for the Colts, played for the Bears, played for the Chargers, coincidentally. Then went on to be a head coach. He was head coach at San Diego. Then he was head coach at Stanford, where he took that moribund team to being a Pac-12 champion and really getting it to a point where he could take it to a guy like Pete Carroll when USC was in their heyday and Pete Carroll was there. Then he left Stanford, took over the San Francisco 49ers. They were 6-10 the year before he got there, 13-3, and went to the NFC Championship game in his first year as an NFL head coach. 4 years in San Francisco, 3 NFC title games, and 1 Super Bowl appearance. They didn't win it, coincidentally, against his brother John with the Baltimore Ravens. And following those 4 years, he goes back to college, spends 10 years at University of Michigan, his alma mater. Had a lot of trouble, never beat Urban Meyer in the game, which is obviously Michigan versus Ohio State. And had a lot of trouble there. He was really on the hot seat following the COVID season, but reached out to his brother, got some help on the defensive side of the ball, and turned everything around. And now he is a national champion, 3 straight appearances in the college football playoff. 2 of them, obviously, he lost, and then this past year, winning it all against University of Washington. And it was crazy because one of the biggest reasons he was on the hot seat when he was at Michigan was because for the longest they couldn't beat Ohio State, their biggest rival. So it's crazy with Michigan and Ohio State. You can be as good a coach as you can be. Just ask Ryan Day. But if you can't win what they call the game, which is arguably the biggest and most vitriol-filled rivalry in all of college football, then you stand a very good chance of getting dismissed no matter what else you're doing. Unless, of course, you're winning like multiple national championships. But still, that's the game you have to win. And it's to the point now, Ohio State has lost the last 3. If they lose it again this year and don't win a national championship, Ryan Day is probably going to be gone. That's why they're loading up for bear. But anyway, I think this is so interesting because Jim Harbaugh has been flirting with the NFL for years now, to the point that Michigan, following him winning the national championship for the school, was putting together a deal that was going to make him the highest paid coach in all of college football. That's how desired he was. That's the imprint that he had on his alma mater. And obviously the fact that Michigan is one of the big time names, one of the biggest brands in all of college football, the winningest program in terms of games won in all of college football, but they hadn't won a national championship since 1997, and that one was shared. And prior to that, they hadn't won one outright since, I believe, 1948. So he got his team, he got his school, he got his alma mater back to the mountaintop, and now his dream of going back to the NFL and undoubtedly to try and go and compete for a Super Bowl championship has now come to fruition. And it's going to be real interesting because nobody wants to step into a bad situation. And now he gets to step into a situation where he's got one of the most talented young quarterbacks and a guy who everybody in the world thinks is that guy in Justin Herbert. Now, if you're not new to the channel and you've watched this show, I've done a couple of shows about Justin Herbert and how he hasn't lived up to the billing thus far. But I can tell you this: I'm no Justin Herbert guy, but if Jim Harbaugh is his coach, things are going to change because we know Jim Harbaugh, having been a quarterback and having coached up a bunch of them. We saw him take Alex Smith, who a lot of guys thought was a bust, and lift up his level of production. Then we saw him realize that he had something special in Colin Kaepernick. He put Alex Smith on the bench and put in Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick then was the linchpin to taking San Francisco to the Super Bowl and nearly winning it against Baltimore in 20 after the 2012 season. Um, we saw him work with Andrew Luck at Stanford, and Andrew Luck, as we know, came into the league and he was a top 10, top 8 quarterback, a really outstanding player at the position. And then we saw him go back to Michigan, and we saw him with J.J. McCarthy. And nobody's saying J.J. McCarthy's a world beater, but guess what? He coached up J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. McCarthy was right there as one of the integral pieces to leading his team to a national championship. So we know that if you're a quarterback and Jim Harbaugh is your coach, he can help you get it done. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does to help develop what's this guy's name? I'm so sorry. Justin Herbert. It's going to be real interesting to see what he does to develop Justin Herbert into being the guy that many, many people think Justin Herbert can and will be. And obviously he wants to compete for a championship, and it should be neat because now, well, they're both in the AFC, so we're not going to have an opportunity to see Jim and John Harbaugh again in the Super Bowl, but it's very possible we could see them in the playoffs. We could see them in the AFC championship game. And if the NFL is smart, they'll probably put them on maybe the Sunday night game or the Monday night game to open up the season, or even, well, not the Thursday night game is going to have the champion on it, but to open up that season in that first weekend, the Sunday night game or the Monday night game, which is going to be standalone, they should have the Chargers and the Ravens, because as we know, the NFL is the most popular television show in the country. But let me just take a quick second to remind you that if you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell. We really appreciate all that. We're almost there to the magic number, 1,000 subscribers. And once we get there, we'll go ahead and start putting things in motion so we can do those live call-in shows. I know that there's a lot of you out there who listen and watch who would love to have the opportunity to talk to me, debate me, what have you. Disagree with the things I say, which I love, because that's all the fun of sports talk, right? If you've ever been in the barbershop, you know that's what we do. We get in there and we debate and we argue, and it's all good, But if you haven't done those things, please do so. Make sure you share the content. And if you want the audio only version of the podcast, make sure you just open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the format podcast. We should come right up. Give us that like, that subscribe, that 5-star review. All those things help us find more sports fans, help more sports fans find us. Okay, so anyway, Jim Harbaugh, and this is interesting, right? This tells you how good of a coach he is. When he comes back, well, his career record as an NFL head coach right now stands at 44-19-1, which is the highest winning percentage of any active NFL head coach. He did that over 4 years. So obviously there's some longer tenured guys, your Mike Tomlins, your Bill Belichick's, your John Harbaugh's, but just to think that he's won more than twice as many games as he's lost. In the NFL, it is hard to win games. It's hard to win games. I want to say he won 13 games twice with the Niners, 12 games the third year, and I believe he went 8-8 the final year before he moved on to Michigan. But the point is, the guy's an outstanding coach, and it's not like he's taken over a situation in San Diego where the cupboard is bare. We talked about the quarterback that he has. We talked about if those guys can get healthy, he's going to have some really good wide receivers. He's got a solid O-line. The quarterback's blind side is protected. Rashawn Slater, he's there. He's going to be there, I'm sure, for the next 10 years or more at left tackle. So the offensive line is relatively secure. They have some beasts, some game records on defense. Your Khalil Max, your Derwin James, and your Joey Bosa. So you've got pass rushers, you've got pass defenders, and you have some tools in place now. I think the Chargers are going to draft number 6 overall by virtue of not making the playoffs. So they have the opportunity whether to add weapons, or we're going to see what they can do. I heard something on one podcast I was listening to earlier today saying that they would likely draft Brock Bowers because he would fit perfectly in a Jim Harbaugh system. I'm kind of iffy on that one, because Brock Bowers is an outstanding route runner. But my problem is, in the Jim Harbaugh system, if you're a tight end, you got to be a physical blocker. And I don't know if Brock Bowers is that. Jim Harbaugh is going to want to be physical at the point of attack as much as he possibly can. He's going to want to run it as much as he possibly can and take a lot off of Justin Herbert's plate, not because Justin Herbert presumably can't handle it, but because that makes things easier to deal with. And when you have a strong running game, it predefines a lot of things and allows you to work off play action much more than it would if your quarterback is just dropping back 30, 40, 45 times a game. And it keeps your quarterback healthy longer. So I fully expect that Jim Harbaugh, he's obviously going to have a huge say in personnel, but I fully expect that the Chargers are going to make sure that they draft, probably a couple of running backs. Would not surprise me at all if he's still around in the third or later rounds, that Harbaugh and the Chargers go ahead and draft this guy Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. Nor would it surprise me if they drafted Audric Estime, running it back out of Notre Dame. Would be very interesting. And Estime, he's a real power runner. So is Corum. So those guys really strike me as guys who could fit well in Jim Harbaugh's system. As for the tight end, not sure. Again, I don't think Brock Bowers fits the bill. If you're looking at just the best player available at that position, he might be it, but it just doesn't strike me. Now, if you're looking for a young wide receiver who is obviously healthy, and because there's a lot of issues with injuries, and you want to give a lot of weapons, or as many weapons as you possibly can, to Justin Herbert, then you look at a Roma Dunze, you look at a Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. will probably be going by then. But there's going to be some studs, and so there's a lot that's going to be available. I'm looking forward to seeing how Harbaugh and the yet to be named general manager of the Chargers build this roster out. But we know one thing: they are going to be physical, they are going to be nasty, they are going to run the football, they're going to play strong defense, and they're going to limit mistakes. So now we know Jim Harbaugh is officially back in the NFL. He's with the San Diego Chargers, he's their head coach, and hey, who's got it better than them? I think one of the other things we also have to take into account is, with Harbaugh leaving Michigan, now who's going to be the next head coach at Michigan? And a lot of people are saying, and I'm not against it at all, that Sharon Moore should probably be the first guy up. We saw what he did in Jim Harbaugh's absence. We know that he's the offensive coordinator. We know that he is the offensive line coach of the two-time Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line there at Michigan. And for those of you who don't know, the Joe Moore Award is the annual award given to the best offensive line in the country. And 2 out of the last 3 years, Michigan won that. We know what their mantra was: being physical, being dominant up front, and being able to control the trenches and effectively run the football, and of course protect the quarterback, but really be able to run the football. So Sharon Moore probably should be the guy. But if it's me and I'm looking for a coach of Michigan, honestly, and I don't know if they've kicked the tires on this yet, nor do I know if he'd be interested in accepting, the same way Michigan stepped away from Stanford and he stepped in, I would give David Shaw a call. We know that he's a guy who's extremely intelligent, who knows football, who has NFL level pedigree, who knows how to recruit smart kids, guys who aren't just after the proverbial bag. Not that there's anything wrong with players getting their money, but we know that for some guys, there's a little more to it than that. Guys who can handle Michigan's academic rigor. I think David Shaw would be a perfect guy to call in terms of taking that over. Also, and in terms of knowing how to handle a big time program. No disrespect to Sharon Moore, but this would be your first job as a NCAA head coach, and it would be for one of the literal blue bloods in college football. And there's more to it than designing plays and calling plays. It's running a whole program. Now, I'm sure that there is a system in place and they would have things there for you to assist you and to help you run this thing, because they want you to have, as Michigan's head coach, the maximum amount of success possible. So I'm sure they would want to take as much as possible off Sharon Moore's plate in order to facilitate that. But still, David Shaw would be my first call. But again, I would not be upset at all if Sharon Moore got the job. So that's another thing we're waiting on, is seeing who's going to be Michigan's head coach now that Harbaugh has stepped away. So what I want to know from you is, what do you think of Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL? And how do you think this affects Michigan? And what do you see Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert doing in the future? What type of success do you think they'll be having? Why don't you leave your comments in the comment section? Can't wait to read them. Can't wait to respond to them. Can't wait to get back to you. And I'll be back with you on the next episode. And I'm out. Peace.